Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And with Guns N' Roses ready to kick off their North America summer tour in, of all the cities in the world, St. Louis, I thought it would be a great time to take a look at the Riverport Riot that happened at the very early stages of the Use Your Illusion tour, because I've always found this one of the most fascinating parts of the tour. And whenever the Use Your Illusion tour gets mentioned, they always bring up the Riverport Riot, and then the Montreal Riot's kind of like secondary. Like, oh yeah, they had another riot in 1992, but it wasn't as legendary as this one. So, without further ado, let's talk about the riot. And if any of you guys actually went to the St. Louis gig, let me know what your experience was. And you guys may not know this, but part of the actual St. Louis gig is actually up on YouTube, at least up to the part where the riot started, and then that's where the gig actually ended. The tape was actually stolen by a fan, I guess, from the actual video production crew. And the same is true for the Indiana, for the Oklahoma, and the Chicago shows from the Use Your Illusion tour that you guys have probably seen on YouTube. It wasn't like Guns N' Roses put those out for the public. Those tapes were actually stolen by, fans. So let's talk about the Riverport Amphitheater. Now it's referred to as a Hollywood Casino Amphitheater in Maryland Heights, Missouri. So it actually opened on June 14th, 1991, and it was built for about $12 million. And the actual first performance at the Riverport Amphitheater was by Steve Winwood. Fast forward a couple weeks to July 2nd, and the actual riot happened. So you can understand why people in St. Louis were so pissed off. They just built this, nice, new, expensive amphitheater, and then a riot happens all of a sudden. And, there's millions of dollars worth of damage. There's people injured. So you can understand why people were noticeably upset. Now, there's a documentary up on YouTube talking about the St. Louis riot, and they interviewed one of the security guys at the actual St. Louis show, and he said he met with Guns N' Roses security guy about a day or so before the show. He said the security guy for Guns N' Roses was great, and one of his parting words was, "You guys have done all you could, you guys have a great plan, now we just have to see what he does." And by referring to he was referring to Axel Rose. And the fact that Axel is so unpredictable and nobody knew what would happen from one show to the next. Now let's talk about the actual concert itself. So the concert was almost an hour and a half until the riot actually happened. So they played for about an hour and a half, and then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. So before You Could Be Mine, Axel talked about how they actually wrote the song back during the Appetite days, and he thanked the audience for actually making it so highly requested on MTV and on rock radio. He also talked a bit about how they like to change the set list up, which is kind of funny because if you've went and seen Guns N' Roses multiple times on the reunion tour, or you've been paying attention to their concerts from each city to each city, you would know that they don't really change the set list up a whole lot. So it's kind of funny to listen back to it, 26 years ago, and hear what Axel has to say about changing up the set list. So a fan in the audience throws a little piece of paper up on stage at Axel that says, "Welcome to St. Louis," and this guy was part of a motorcycle club, so he actually had his club's emblem on them. And in the past, this guy had done the same thing to Guns N' Roses, and usually, Axel would give him a thumbs up, but this time Axel seemed annoyed and just threw the note away. And you guys guessed it, the guy who actually threw the note on stage was the same guy that was taking photos that Axel was complaining to security about. So the guy who threw the note on stage was a member of the Saddle Tramps motorcycle club called Stump. So pulling out the camera during Rocket Queen wasn't Stump's only transgression of the night. It was pretty much the last. So if you guys watched the whole concert, you can see that Stump and his buddies in the front row are actually heckling Axel. So if you watch the early part of the concert, so during Dust and Bones, Izzy takes lead while Axel dances around with a tambourine and chimes in on background vocals. So this early in the concert, something was already striking Axel as odd. So at 11:56 at the recording, he looks at the crowd and throws his arms as if to say, "What's that about?" About a minute later, we can hear Axel calling to someone in the audience, throwing his arms out again, but we can't hear what he's saying over the singing. All during the song, we can see Axel looking hard at the crowd. As he sings the closing notes, he leans down towards someone in the front row at about the 15-minute and 48-second mark and takes a small card. And Axel says, "You have people yelling and screaming during the whole show," says Rose, but this guy wouldn't stop. He was loud, almost as loud as my monitor. He's holding up a card, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's great, but he still won't stop yelling. I read his card, says Rose, and I said, "Okay, you're Stump from the Saddle Tramps. Was that worth interrupting the show for?" So here's the actual audio.
Well, what am I supposed to do with it? Huh? That was worth fucking interrupting me for, I guess. No, it wasn't, dude. Tell you a little bit about this show. There might be a delay between different songs because we just have this big fucking list and we pick which song we're gonna play next as we go to see how it feels best with you. That way we don't get bored and you don't go and I saw that show in Toledo. Fuck that shit. Also, we'll be playing a lot of new stuff, seeing as how you people have waited a really long time for the album to come out. And it'd be kind of a really pussyish thing to do to just come up here and play Appetite for Destruction. It's kind of like jerking off. But we got a new video out. That people like you have seemed to put on #1 on request on MTV and the radio stations across the country, which we're real surprised at. We never thought it would happen with that song. It's just something we when we recorded that song, we actually wrote it before we recorded the first album. That's why it says bitch, slap, rap, and cocaine tongue on Appetite. But we just kind of threw it out there so that the rockers would have something to listen to while we were working on our ballad shit. But you guys have kind of stuck a firecracker up its ass and it just took off. So without further ado.
So just before they play Welcome to Jungle a couple songs later, Axel goes on a rant and he talks about coming to St. Louis when he was 17. Now, they then break into Welcome to the Jungle, but you can tell that somebody's not playing their part properly. Like, it sounds like Matt Storm's not coming in early enough when they actually start the beginning of the song.
While Slash is finding his shoes, what happened to his shoes anyway? I'm sorry, am I ignoring you? I like these guys' company. Yep, up on a soapbox. How those shoes coming, Slash? I didn't come out here to do stand-up comedy. St. Louis. I'll tell you a little something about the city.
Put some shoes on, dude.
I was 17 and I left Indiana because I had a disagreement with one of the juvenile detectives. And he was determined to put my ass in jail, and I was determined to get the fuck out of Dodge. As he was driving to my house, I was getting my clothes out of the dryer and getting the fuck out of Dodge. And I had about 35 bucks, and I took a bus to St. Louis. Yeah, that was cool, you know, and I had about a half a joint, and I went down by the arch and I smoked half a joint. And then I went out by whatever freeway I was closest to, and I hitched a ride with some air conditioning repairman in a van. It all seemed pleasant and safe enough, and nothing really much happened. And I was like exhausted, beat, and never been out of my fucking town on my own in my life. And we went to some fucking hotel, and I crashed out, you know, and this guy crashed out, and I woke up and this guy was trying to fuck me. I don't care, you can be male, female, you can be a fucking dog, I don't care what you are, man, that shit ain't right. No, but I guess I'm just homophobic, you know, that's my problem. Anyway, it took everything I had inside of me. I pinned this guy against the wall between the door of the hotel with my straight razor because I thought I was bad to shave with a straight razor. And it took everything I had not to fucking slice his jugular vein. And you know that movie Escape from New York? I guess they filmed a lot of it here or something. So that was kind of my first experiences of knowing where I was. Do you know where you are? Do you know where you are? All I know is when I was here and I was 17, I was in the middle of the fucking jungle, baby! I was about to
So fast forward now to the last song of the concert, which is, I think, one of the best performances of Rocket Queen, at least that I've seen before. And Axel spots a guy in the crowd with a camera and asks security to take it away. When they don't honor his request, he does it himself and jumps into the crowd. Here's the audience.
Hey, take that! Take that! Now, get that guy and take that! I'll take it, goddammit! Security, I'm going home. We're out of here.
So the sound the microphone made to some fans sounded like a gunshot when Axel threw it down on the ground. After Rose left the stage, you can hear that Slash goes up to the microphone and tells something to the audience. So he told the audience he just smashed the microphone, we're out of here. And of course, the infuriated audience basically set it off a 3-hour riot in which dozens of people were injured. And some of the footage was actually captured by the band's photographer, Robert John, who was documenting a lot of the tour for the band. Now, according to the actual security staff, a lot of the people who actually went to the show did not participate in the riot. It was just a small minority, and it was crazy. There was like seats that were bolted down, and people removed those seats and threw them on stage, as you guys can see. And there was even a point in time where the security staff basically gave over control of the stage to the police, and they tried to cut power to the actual stage, but they only were able to cut power to half the stage. So you actually had kids trying to like sever cables that actually had live electricity through them. And you had people trying to steal traffic signs from the parking lot. You had people trying to steal the band's equipment. In fact, Axel said they had over $1 million worth in damage to their equipment, and several of the subsequent shows following the St. Louis riot had to be canceled. So following the actual events in St. Louis, the band's tour manager, John Reese, actually got all the band members in a van and tried to head across state lines so the band wouldn't be arrested. And in fact, Slash was still wearing his top hat. And they told him, like, Slash, you gotta take your top hat off because the fans may see you and they may start getting angry or trying to do something to the actual van. So he had to take his top hat off when he was sitting in the back of the van. Like, you gotta think about that. You got the world's biggest band hunkered down in a car trying to, like, get across state lines so they don't get arrested. Now, one thing people don't know about the St. Louis riot is that the minute Axel walked off stage, the band tried to go back on stage to finish the concert. So according to Robert John, who was there, he did say that the band tried to go back and try to finish the gig, but the fans wouldn't allow them to. And here's what happened according to Doug Goldstein during the event. So Axel stormed off stage. Doug goes in to follow him and tells Axel, hey bud, it's going to get really ugly if you don't go back out there. And Axel had a cut on his knee. And Axel tells Doug, you know how I do this. Just leave me alone for 2 minutes. I'll be fine. I got to clear this blood, then I'll come back out. Go get the other band members and tell them we're going back on, to which Doug replies, great, thank you. So Doug assembles a band, they're ready to go back on stage, and the promoter and the chief of police are there, and they go, what are you doing? And Doug says, I'm taking the band back out there, and the police and the promoter say, F you, you've done enough damage, get the F out of here. And then Goldstein told the band manager, Josh Reese, what had happened, and basically he makes the call to get the band on the tour bus, call ahead to their hotel in Chicago, that they were going to be arriving early. And then Goldstein reflected on the event, saying, to see guys running with Marshall stacks off the stage and out of the building, video screens, what are you going to do with video screens? There was even those video screens that you see up, at all their shows. The fans were able to actually remove those video screens and get them to the ground level. Now, the actual damage to the venue was about $250,000, and it took about a month for the actual venue to clean up and get back to normal operations after the riot. So here's the MTV News report soon after the riot had actually happened.
Of Maryland Heights are blaming Axel Rose for a riot which broke out Tuesday night at the Guns N' Roses show at the Riverport Amphitheater. The fracas resulted in at least 60 injuries to police and fans, 16 arrests, and reportedly over $1 million worth of damage to the brand new amphitheater. It's only the second concert ever to be held there. According to police reports and eyewitness accounts, about an hour into the show, Rose spotted a fan in the front row taking photos of him and got upset. Cameras are not allowed into the amphitheater. Rose reportedly yelled several times for security to stop the fan from taking pictures. When they failed to respond, Rose announced that he would get the guy himself and then jumped into the crowd and allegedly pummeled the fan. Venue security jumped in to pull Rose off the fan, then Guns N' Roses security jumped in to pull them off Rose. Axel eventually made it back to the stage, announced, "Thanks to your lame-ass security, I'm going home," and left the stage. The rest of the band played on for a few seconds, then left when they realized Axel was gone for good. The house lights stayed down for 10 minutes as the crowd booed, and when the house lights came up, some 2,000 of the 20,000 fans began to rush the stage. Along the way, the fans assaulted security and police officers, destroyed seating, ripped up turf, and then took to the stage, attacking or walking off with Guns N' Roses' gear. Here's what some witnesses at the scene had to say after the riot.
Axel comes out, he's got on a new fur coat or whatever. They start singing. He looks down at the crowd and he's like, take it from him. All of a sudden he goes, if you won't take it, I'll take it from him. Axel jumps into the crowd. Security gets there in a hurry. Axel's throwing blows. He gets up on the stage. Security's all over, and all of a sudden Axel goes, I'm out of here because of piss poor security. He takes off, and the band kind of slowed down like they didn't think it was for real. Then they just took off. We kept waiting for him to come off. We kept waiting for him to come back on stage. They loaded the bus, and they immediately left.
They stormed the stage, tore down the speakers, the screens are down.
Welcome to the jungle, Axel!
I vandalized some property here. I pulled out some plants and I threw it against the wall. I was mixed up in the commotion. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I just let my adrenaline take over.
So far, no one's serious. I don't think we're going to have anybody that's admitted to the hospital tonight, but we're repairing a lot of lacerations and doing a lot of x-rays at this point.
And supervisors that were there took firm control over the officers. We were very cognizant of incidents that have happened around the country with police brutality being an issue. We were concerned that that would not happen here, and it did not happen here.
The Maryland Heights Police Department says that Guns N' Roses snuck out of the venue and hightailed it out of town during the melee. However, Guns N' Roses management says that as soon as Axel and the band got off stage, they were told by police and the concert promoter to leave the venue at once, which they did. GNR management adds, quote, "We saw lots of people in the show with bottles, cans, cameras, even knives. One of our roadies was hit on the head with a bottle trying to save Slash's guitars. You ended up with kids all over the stage, destroying drums and grand pianos and lighting rigs. This is a month-old venue with a new staff. We think security was insufficient for this event." Meanwhile, 3 hours after the riot started, at 2:30 a.m. Wednesday morning, Axel Rose phoned a St. Louis radio station and in an off-air conversation reportedly said the band would have liked to have come back to finish its show, but things got out of hand too quickly. Dan Dirkles of the Riverfront Times, who was there to review the concert, told us that he not only saw police use water hoses and tear gas on the rioting fans, but that he witnessed individual acts of police brutality and that one of his fellow reporters was clubbed with a nightstick after telling police he was with the press. All this, adds Dirkle, because Axel Rose didn't like his picture being taken. With the band's gear trashed or stolen, the July 4th Guns N' Roses show in Chicago was canceled.
Resuming their still albumless U.S. tour tonight with a concert in Dallas. The group says it hopes to reschedule the canceled Chicago and Kansas City shows, probably in early fall. As for the St. Louis riot, in which more than 60 fans and police officers were injured and several $100,000 worth of damage was reportedly done to the venue, local police, while blaming the incident on banned behavior, have not filed any charges against the group. And the venue, a 2-month-old facility called the Riverport Amphitheater, was open for business again this past weekend for a concert by warrant. Guns N' Roses frontman Axel says he feels he's being made a scapegoat for the riot, which he blames on lax security. I don't think the blame would have come down on the band, he says, had the crowd gone crazy at a Barry Manilow show. And he adds, we have the whole thing on videotape.
So Axel gave his own version of the events in a Rolling Stone interview back in 1991. He said, when I got back on stage, says Rose, I lost a contact and I couldn't see. My first thought was, I'm out of here. I'm paying these guys venue staff salary. I don't need to be treated like that by them. I went backstage, Rose continues, and found a new lens. It was getting crazy, and we decided we were going to go back out and try to play because we didn't want people to get hurt. But by that time, it was painfully obvious that it was too late. The rioters had destroyed the band's drum set, projection screens, monitors, and amps, in addition to the damage inflicted on the venue itself and each other. 500 police were called in, 60 people sent to the hospital, 15 people sent to jail, and damages were estimated around $500,000. Izzy's Marshall stack was later found 2 miles away, abandoned at a bus stop. So fast forward to about a week after the riot, Guns N' Roses played Dallas, Texas. And you can just guess that, of course, security was actually beefed up for the actual venue. So they actually brought in 41 off-duty police officers, which is 10 more than usual. And they also had to hire a private security firm to provide additional guards as well. And the concert was set to start at 8 p.m. with Guns N' Roses going on stage, but Axel didn't arrive until 10 o'clock or so, and the show didn't start till about 10:15, so Axel was almost 2.5 hours late for the show. But the concert still got really good reviews, and Axel, of course, addressed the elephant in the room, and here's what he had to say.
For the last few days, when I'm watching CNN and I'm reading this shit in the St. Louis papers and other papers, how I incited a riot. And then they're talking about, and in the band they have a recovering heroin addict, and once Axel Rose was seen driving down the street in a Jeep yelling obscenities at his former wife. What the fuck does that have to do with St. Louis? I had to realize that no matter what we did tonight and how good or how bad we played, that there'll probably be one person in the press here that for some reason didn't dig it, and he'll write about something else and he'll write some lies. Now wait a minute. At the same time, while that won't have a whole lot of effect on Dallas, and it shouldn't fuck with me, it fucks with the entire fucking thing called rock and roll in general. Because who are the main people that watch these news things and read this shit? They're all about, they're all in their 40s to 50s, sitting there eating their fucking bran flakes and drinking their coffee. Knocking getting old. We all get fucking old, it's a fact of life. Unless you fucking die before you get there, you're gonna get old. But just because you get old doesn't mean you have to deny young people their humanity. It's like the school teacher that sits home and watches Eddie Murphy and says fuck and everything else, but then he goes to school and some kid says, oh shit, and then he gets whacked in the principal's office, What the fuck is that? And so now there's a lot of people reading these negative things about Guns N' Roses, and they don't know shit they can't tell the difference from Guns N' Roses to Warrant. But if their kid likes Guns N' Roses, he's gonna get smacked in the head or something. Because in the paper it said it was an evil thing. And that really makes me go, fuck, what is the point? Well, I'll tell you what the point is. The point is is that we're up here and what we're doing is something that is dying in America. It's something that's called, I mean, it's okay. It usually stays at an underground level, but it usually doesn't get as successful as Guns N' Roses, and that's something called freedom of expression. And basically, that's all we fucking are. Guns N' Roses is just a prime fucking example of freedom of expression. But there are a lot of people that they want to deny that. So basically they're going to say that Axl Rose lied about this, they lied about that, when actually they're going to tell you half-truths. You know, they'll tell you he got in a fight with a parking attendant. They won't tell you that 15 parking attendants jumped him and wouldn't let him into his own concert, you know? They'll just tell you he got in a fight with a parking attendant. They'll say he jumped in the crowd on somebody. He won't tell you that he jumped in the crowd because security was beating the fuck out of an innocent kid. I thought that was America was supposed to be about. Standing up for yourself and standing up for each other. I thought that's what the fuck America was supposed to be about. I'm sorry that I guess I learned the wrong lesson. I guess I learned that I should kiss ass. I should do exactly what I'm told to do by somebody who doesn't know shit. And I should write kiss ass wimpy puss songs so we can be successful and everybody will like it and it's safe. You know, they helped kill Jim Morrison with a lot less pressure. And according to these people, I guess all I do is lie. We make up all our songs. I mean, we'll tell you if the song is a joke or it's, you know, it's just a joke, don't take it seriously. But most of the time, these songs are something that we dug real deep to find in ourselves. And when that gets denied, and you're told that you're full of shit, it makes it real hard to figure out how to carry the fuck on. So, what am I? I'm just a liar, I'm just full of shit, I just make up shit. I guess I'm nothing but a double-talking jive motherfucker.
So what ended up happening at the end of the show, after they played Paradise City, Axl told the crowd, F you St. Louis and God bless America. Fast forward to about a week later, Guns N' Roses are playing the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington, and at one point during the concert, Axl holds up the F the St. Louis Police Department banner that the Tacoma Police Department actually gave the band. Now, following the actual riot, Axl would be charged with inciting a riot, but he wouldn't be arrested until about a year later after Guns N' Roses returned from their tour in Europe. But let's talk about the months after the riot. So Guns N' Roses still hadn't released their Use Your Illusion albums, but once they were eventually released in September of 1991, if you actually looked at the liner notes where the band wrote their thank yous, they actually wrote F you St. Louis. And following the St. Louis riot, from time to time, Axl would actually be wearing a St. Louis Sucks shirt in concert. If you guys ever saw the 1993 video for the song Dead Horse, there's even a small little snippet there where you can see Axl wearing the St. Louis Sucks shirt as well. Now, following the release of the Use Your Illusion album, some radio DJs in St. Louis were not happy about the FU St. Louis reference in the liner notes for the Illusions records, so here's what MTV News reported back in September of 1991.
The frenzy was slightly muted in St. Louis, the site of a riot following a gun show last July in which the band's equipment was destroyed. The Use Your Illusion liner notes contain a two-word insult to the town, which prompted a local radio station to round up as many angry citizens as it could to respond in kind.
They're nasty, you know, they annoy everybody, but that's, you know, that's...
So in September of 1991, Use Your Illusion albums come out, and to promote the albums, Guns N' Roses released a music video for Don't Cry. Now, there's a snippet in the actual music video where Axl's wearing a St. Louis Cardinals hat, and one can maybe guess, maybe it's just a little joking reference to St. Louis. So fast forward now to April of 1992, Guns N' Roses are in Chicago, and they're playing in Rosemont, and you've probably seen it on YouTube. There is pretty much the full show is available on YouTube Pro Shot. They were actually supposed to be playing two concerts in Chicago. So the one you see on YouTube is the first night. The second night, they actually canceled the concert. Like 15 minutes before the doors opened, it was announced Guns N' Roses are not playing. It's been canceled. The reason it was canceled is because Axel had found out that if he stayed in the US, he would be arrested on charges stemming from the riot in St. Louis the previous year. So what did Guns N' Roses do? They left town and they went to Europe to start their European tour. So according to a Geffen spokesperson, the Cook County Sheriff's Office planned to arrest Rose and extradite him to St. Louis to enforce a bench warrant obtained by the St. Louis prosecutor's office. So they said rather than go to jail, Rose left the sheriff's jurisdiction, said Bryn Breidenthal of Geffen. And at the same time, a Guns N' Roses management representative apologized to fans and blamed celebrity persecution by St. Louis authorities. Now, Guns N' Roses take the next several months to tour Europe, and it's a pretty good tour for the Gunners. You know, there's really not a lot of controversy that's happening during the actual tour, and Guns N' Roses play their final show in Europe on July 2nd of 1992, which is the one-year anniversary of the St. Louis Riot. So just before Double Talk and Jive, Axel dedicates it to the city of St. Louis, and here's what he had to say.
Whether you know about this or not, this next song to St. Louis, singing how today is 1 year to the day, anniversary riot day. Dedicate this to the prosecutor. Double talking time.
So fast forward now to July 12th, 1992. Guns N' Roses have just returned from Europe. They had been touring Europe for pretty much the last couple months, and they arrive at JFK International Airport in New York, and customs officials apprehend Axl Rose at the airport for an outstanding St. Louis County warrant. So here's what MTV News had to report at this point in time back in 1992.
But first, Axl Rose appeared in court in Missouri this week to plead guilty to 4 charges of assault and criminal damage stemming from a concert riot in St. Louis a year ago. His trial date was set for October the 13th. The 30-year-old Guns N' Roses frontman, who was arrested in New York last weekend and released on $100,000 bail, arrived wearing a pink Versace suit. The warrant for his arrest was issued by the St. Louis prosecutor following the riot last July, in which 40 people were injured. MTV News was also present when Rose arrived, handcuffed at the New York court where his bail was set. After the hearing, MTV's Kurt Loder hitched a ride in Axl's limousine and spoke to the singer as he rode back to his Manhattan hotel.
Axel, you all right?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
What happened?
The prosecutor reneged on a promise he made. I'm going there on the 15th, and he said this wouldn't happen, and he lied.
You gonna be out soon?
I think so.
Rose had been arrested on an outstanding warrant issued months ago by a prosecutor in St. Louis named McCulloch, who had been trying for nearly a year to get Rose to return to that city to answer to 4 misdemeanor assault charges and 1 misdemeanor property damage charge stemming from a riot at a Guns N' Roses concert in St. Louis last July. After 3.5 hours at the Queens Courthouse, Rose was released on $100,000 bail and an agreement that he would finally fly back to St. Louis this week, as he'd already planned to do. We jumped into a limo with him for an exclusive interview on the way back to his hotel in Manhattan and asked him how he'd been treated in jail.
What do they do when they put you in jail? Did you have a cell by yourself, or were there other people? Did you get to talk to any other inmates or anything?
No, I basically spent my time writing autographs for cops and talking with them about rock and roll. I met all these really cool cops that were telling me all about when they went to Woodstock and everything. It was great. New York cops are the best.
The question in many observers' minds, of course, was why Rose didn't just return to St. Louis to plead his case months ago. According to Rose, it's taken this long to work out an ironclad deal, which, as things stand now, means a sentence of 2 years probation reduced to 1 year.
We've just been waiting till, to get the case somewhat solidified and in writing before we go, because I don't want to go there and get set up. You know, well, you come here, it's going to be like this, and then it's a whole different story, and you end up sitting in St. Louis for a long time.
What does probation mean? You can't do it, come back to St. Louis and do something bad, or you can't do something bad anywhere in the country?
It's like anywhere. It's anywhere, but I'm not really worried about any of that because I really don't spend my time breaking the law, so I'm not really worried about that. It just depends on, you know, if you play someplace where somebody doesn't like rock and roll or Guns N' Roses, they could say I did something. You know, you never know what will happen. With tape of one guy on stage with a knife, and we lost $1 million worth of equipment in that show, and I don't see anybody else taking any responsibility for anything. I'm saying, yeah, I jumped off stage, and yeah, things went haywire after that, and maybe I could have handled it better or whatever, but no one was really handling anything at that point, so I took it into my own hands with what I could do, and what crossed my mind that time, because I've been pretty much pushed to the limit by their lack of security. But I don't see anybody else in St. Louis really taking any responsibility for anything that happened.
So fast forward, about a couple days later, Guns N' Roses kick off their tour with Metallica. The first show they're playing is in Washington, D.C. at RFK Stadium. And of course, Axel lets the audience know what he's thinking about the whole St. Louis riot and the arrest. Here's what he had to tell the audience before Live and Let Die.
Now, I've been advised not to say anything or anything derogatory about St. Louis. St. Louis is son of my dick.
So in the end, 4 counts of assault and 1 count of property damage was brought against Axl Rose, but the judge determined that he did not directly incite the riot, and the charges were eventually dropped. However, Axl's legal troubles stemming from the actual riot did not end there. The fan that he actually punched ended up filing a civil suit against Axl, and this time, Axl was also involved with the lawsuit concerning Steven Adler. So on October 21st, 1993, Axl reached an out-of-court settlement with a St. Louis fan who claimed he was hurt in a scuffle with Axl during the 1991 St. Louis show. So William Stump Stevenson received an undisclosed amount of money and an Axl autograph in his scrapbook. Stevenson said he was injured when Axl jumped off stage and attacked him for taking pictures of the band. And here's a news story talking about the actual trial. And I'm sure this is an interview with Axl that a lot of you guys have not seen before.
Now, concert goer William Stevenson is suing Rose, claiming he suffered serious back injuries when Rose jumped on him.
In court, I had to sit 3 weeks straight in the courtroom with him, and they literally sat me and him side by side. And on this big screen they put in the courtroom, made us watch the concert in front of the jury. I'm rocking out, watching the show. My lawyer's like, dude,
You go there getting accused of, you look like a biker. Are you one of the saddle tramps? Are you friends of them? It's like, no, I don't think we hang out. Now, do I know these guys from coming shows all this year? Yeah, I do. Have they ever caused me any problems? Not really.
His lawyer had took the sign from the front of Riverport, which was maybe 3 by 5, and had it blown up and brought it in the courtroom and said, "You didn't see this sign?" And I said, "Yeah, I seen the sign. Of course it wasn't that size, but I seen it." And he goes, "Well, can't you see on there? No cameras, no." I said, haven't lied through this whole thing. I said, I snuck the camera in. I told you I had it down my pants. I had a knife on me. I had a bottle of whiskey. Everything I snuck in. like I always have. I said, I'm not denying I broke the rules, but it still didn't give him the right to do what he did.
And they both have compromised, and they both reached an agreement between...
The jury came out and asked for some more evidence to look at, and then they come up to the sum of numbers were about where we was all in the same ballpark. And we wound up settling the case after the jury was in deliberation for a couple hours.
And at close to the last minute or something, it was accepted, and that would have to be enforced, and so we're fine about it.
I'm just happy with the outcome, and
basically I asked my lawyer, I said, is this done and over with now? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. And I grabbed my book up with my photos of him, and he's like, where are you going? I said, I'm going over to get my autograph, because he owed me an autograph. And he's like, no. And I go, well, why not? What's he going to do? He goes, who knows? I said, well, we'll find out in a minute. And I walked over to the table, and all the news media people was around him. And I just rudely cut through, you know, excuse me, and set my book down in front of him, and I said, I think you should autograph this picture. And he just looked at me like, are you crazy? You know, dude, it's people like me that buy your albums and come to your shows to put you where you're at. I think you got a little bit away from where you came from. And I said, I am not a bootlegger. I said, this picture stays in my collection, and I want it autographed. And he looks up at me, and then I had him thinking, and all the media is like, this is going to be great. You know, they're all cameras rolling. He's going to sock him or he's going to sign it. Yeah, so they finally, he looks up at me and says, do you want me to put Billy or Stump? I said, whatever you're comfortable with.
So following the trial in 1993, Axel and Slash go on Rockline in January of 1994. A couple days after New Year's, they're promoting the spaghetti incident and their new video for Estranged. And a fan from St. Louis actually calls into the show, and here's what happened.
Thank you, Nick, for the call. Jeff is in St. Louis listening to KC95. Jeff, you're on Rockline.
Hey, Axel, Slash, what's up?
Hey.
First off, I'd like to say the show in St. Louis that you did, the last show, was the best show I've ever been to. And my question is,
wow.
I've heard some rumors that
where were you when we needed you?
That maybe Izzy would be brought back in to help record things. Is there any truth to that?
None at all.
Especially not to
never again.
No, not at all. We brought Izzy back in Europe when Gilby had hurt his arm, and then we kind of got blackmailed, and we haven't. We really don't want anything to do with Izzy ever since then. Wow. Yeah, in all honesty, it was cool to get him back. When the idea came,
it was cool when he went away.
We thought it was a good idea to call him up and see if he wanted to come down and hang out and do a couple gigs, and then it turned sour at the end. So it took us right back to square one. So. It was nice while it lasted.
Yeah, nice to be back in St. Louis again, by the way.
I was back there recently.
That's right.
And actually, it wasn't bad. It worked out real nice, cool. And there was a whole different vibe about things. Great. Once people got a different side of the story. Yeah, I want to go play there.
Jeff, thanks for the call. Mike is in New York.
So fast forward to 1995. If you guys have read Slash's autobiography, he talks about actually meeting the fan that Axel punched in 1991. So Slash talks about returning to St. Louis with Snake Pit in 1995. He said, the night before my show, I was walking from my hotel down to this row of bars nearby. I wasn't going so far, so I didn't bring security because I knew I was meeting our crew down there. But as I walked up this main drag, I saw 5 bikers in front of me and no one else around, and for a moment I got worried. It was a pretty dark night on a pretty dark street where tall street lamps illuminated spots of ground every few yards. I got closer to them and they were looking at me and I was looking at them. One of them got off his bike and came at me and I wasn't sure how it was going to go down. Hey man, he said, grinning wide, I'm the guy who Axel hit. Like I was supposed to pat the guy on the back. He had this attitude like, hey, we're both anti-Axel, right? He seemed to think we had something in common, but I didn't work like that. If any of you talk shit about Axel, I'm going to get in your face. Only I can do that because I have that right, not some punk on the street who doesn't even know him. Things got tense in the moment, but the guy started in his own story, almost apologetically. He had just won all of his money in the lawsuit. I think he'd been awarded his damages by the court like 2 days before. It was a tense situation. It was obvious to me that this guy who was riding high on that cash he'd just gotten, and he wasn't going to spend it wisely. His friends seemed to be enjoying his good fortune with him, that was for sure, because all of them were clearly out of town. He was the shortest of the bunch, and as all small guys do, he was trying to impress everyone in sight. He had earned his bragging rights and a decent amount of our cash, but as he told me in the few minutes I paused to speak with him in the days after the incident, He couldn't even leave his house. He received death threats by the phone, hate mail, all of it. Only after the city won the lawsuit, after which he won as well, did the whole tide turn for him. I totally was not impressed with this guy. I told him so and that I had to go and that was it. So where was I? So fast forward now to 2016, Slash, Axel, and Duff are reuniting and going on a tour with Guns N' Roses. And on March 25th, 2016, Guns N' Roses announced 21 cities they would be visiting on their reunion tour, which also included their first trip back to St. Louis since 1991. However, fast forward now to April 1st, 2016, Guns N' Roses announced the dates, and they had actually taken one city off their itinerary, which was St. Louis. Some people thought that St. Louis was being trolled by the band. Now, it is confirmed that Guns N' Roses will be playing St. Louis in July of 2017. They'll be kicking off their North America tour in St. Louis, and I'm sure Axel's going to make some sort of statement about the 1991 Riverport Riot. And you guys may be wondering, whatever happened to Stump after all these years? Is he still around? Is he still a Guns N' Roses fan? Well, let's let the video do the talking.
The 1991 Riverport Riot. Oxy's Jeff Bernthal is live in Maryland Heights with the story for us. Jeff?
Yes, it was a long time ago, but we're standing in the area where there was a Code 1000, a call for police from throughout the area to respond to that concert venue that was then known as Riverport. Started with a fan taking pictures of Axel Rose while he was on stage, but tonight we caught up with that fan.
No pun intended, but I think it's a riot.
Axel Rose was performing. A fan was taking pictures. It's hard to believe now, but picture taking was prohibited at the 1991 concert.
After I took the picture, it was kind of like he was scanning on the crowd, pointing in my direction.
Rose yelled for security and eventually dove into the crowd after Bill stumped Stevenson. Security tried hosing down the crowd with water. Stevenson was eventually strapped to a medical board.
While I'm strapped to a board, I'm still seeing bottles and chairs and all kinds of stuff flying around. I'm telling this guy, I said, either flip me face down so I don't see what's going to hit me in the face, or get me the hell out of here. One or the other.
Rose would eventually be dragged into court. He would go on to bash St. Louis repeatedly, using language we can't use. So why in the world would St. Louis now be a scheduled stop?
No pun intended, but I think it's a riot.
Stevenson says if there's a concert, he'll be there because he's still a fan. He has enough photographs with famous musicians to fill a museum. The Riverport Riot takes up 4 pages in one book documenting rock music in St. Louis. There's even a comic book set about the Riverport Riot.
25 years, it's been a crazy train of a ride, you know.
He plans on using the 25-year anniversary as a time to reunite his old band. In the past, they played with a Guns N' Roses tribute band. He says there's plenty of blame to go around for the Riverport Riot, but he does not regret taking those pictures.
If you want to be a celebrity and be in the limelight, autographs and pictures is part of that. You know, if you don't want to be a celebrity, get on the couch, be out of the way. There's somebody that wants that job, you know.
Even though Guns N' Roses recently announced St. Louis will be a scheduled stop, there is no specific date or venue that's been announced. The 25-year anniversary of the Riverport Riots will be July 2nd of this year. Reporting live from Maryland Heights, Jeff Bernthal.
So there was a reference to a comic book about the riot. There's a really good comic that basically summarizes everything that happened at the event on their website called there'salotgoingon.com. So I've linked to it down below if you guys want to check it out. It's also helped me by providing some source material for the actual video. So that does it for my look back at the St. Louis riot. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the contents of that video, and let me know in the comments if you guys actually attended the St. Louis show and whether you're going to be going to the upcoming St. Louis show. So thanks for watching, guys. Hit the subscribe button if you loved that video and want to see more stuff just like that, and if you love Guns N' Roses. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. The links to my social media channels are down below. Thank you so much, guys. This has been the longest episode of True Story I've filmed. Thank you so much for enjoying it. Talk to you guys later.